Good evening. How are you? Well, we're doing a sit and talk inside because it's been close to 100 degrees all day. The humidity, according to Thomas Jefferson, was 62%. And the wind was at 3 miles an hour when it wasn't raining, and we had rain showers off and on all day. So I'm here, and I have a few thoughts about where we are and what's going on. I think that our focus on a continuing basis has to be comparing the misconduct of Trump with the standards that should be enforced by law and otherwise and are not being enforced at all. Now, this shouldn't surprise us because we saw how, God bless him, President Biden allowed the time to pass with his inert attorney general and did nothing about Trump's misconduct and attempted coup on January the 6th. And so we find ourselves with a policy that we're going to cure this at the ballot box, and we did not. Now, by all standards of measurement, Trump is an unwise man or not a wise man. Jefferson said that honesty is the first chapter of the book of wisdom, and honesty is nowhere to be found in the case of Trump. Some may say this is a general problem with politicians. Increasingly after the first campaign, it does seem to be a problem, but nothing like the historic natures of dishonesty and self-serving that we see from Trump. Now, nor is Trump dignified in a Roman sense. A Roman once said, "Where is there dignity unless there is honesty?" So these values are tied together, and the pain that people feel each day, every night, is how discordant this conduct is with what we think is right, and how discordant it is that no one acts to do anything about it. Not in the Congress, not in the courthouses, and so forth. And I'm not talking about those cases to restore money that was taken or what it takes to be a citizen of the United States, just being born here. These kinds of issues are one thing. But what I'm talking about is a government that has decided to take huge amounts of funds from the mouths of people, give it in tax breaks, and make, if you will, an armed force that seems to anticipate that the public will only put up with so much of this, and then we will see the force of the White House through the military against the people. Now, there's something we have to avoid, and we can avoid it because by pressure and speaking and demonstrations and these court cases, we can make a difference. Now, let's choose a couple of examples. Tariffs is one example. For example, at my house, we lost our air conditioning today. 100 degrees, pretty serious. Workman came out pretty quickly. My dad was a carpenter, electrician, and plumber, and if he was around today, he'd probably get a kick out of fixing it. But I talked to this man about that, and we talked about, okay, so are the tariffs affecting what you do? Now, yes, he's a serviceman, but his knowledge is greater than the individual assignment he had at my house. And it is that things like copper and certain other materials that are coming in are now coming in more expensive. And he says in one unit, which was $1,000, is going to be $1,500. And the company's not going to be able to absorb that cost. So, just anecdotally, we see piece by piece how terrible this is. We also had a discussion about family members who are losing their health insurance already. So you see that there's a growing storm of hurt, and economic hurt can be as telling and as suffering and as painful as a physical hurt. So this power against the people is being used to keep us under the thumb of he who would be an autocrat. And we have this. Between the oligarchy and the autocrat, we have this problem. So this is one example, but what else do we have? What we have is, for example, Epstein. Now, we don't analyze these cases the way I think we should, which is that Epstein feels like a profile in a bribery case. let's try what was said to Maxwell to get her to talk, if you will. Tell us, Maxwell, that Trump is blameless. Okay, so we don't have to be that direct. We say, now, one of the names on this list of these hundreds of names and so forth is Trump. Did Trump have anything to do with it? No, absolutely not. That's amazing that anybody'd think that. But I realize, Washington, this is the way things are. You might also tell me, Ms. Maxwell, why do so many people say you lie? How do I know you're not lying now? Well, it's really important to me to tell the truth that you want to hear. That's certainly it. And so what exactly do you want, Trump? I want you to say that I'm blameless. Well, what do I get out of it? Well, this is what you get out of it. You get out of jail. Maybe you get a pardon, one or both of these. It depends on the information. It depends on your cooperation. Anybody think that's a bribery? Is the President of the United States conducting an official act? Is he exceeding his authority? Is he committing a crime? Yes, I believe that true for all of those. Now, we see other examples of this, and no one talks about it. You have to remember Trump's long history in this regard, the quid pro quo malefactor, if you will. This for that. You give me this, I give you that. Zelensky was one of the great examples of this. You need weapons? Well, just start an investigation on Biden, because that'll really make a difference. That'll grease the skids. And in those days, it was I think it was in September, and the time was running out, and there was a lot of pressure on Trump. And so part of the connection was made. Arms went to Ukraine, but there wasn't an investigation in Ukraine. Ukraine's visit to the White House was delayed. Okay, so that was like an in-the-cradle example of how quid pro quos were going to work and have worked. But now we have others. So, for example, why don't you pay us $16 million and we'll approve the merger of Paramount with Skydance Media. This is an $8 billion merger, and all we want is $16 million. It's not a big deal. And one other thing, you got this guy on the air, and he's attacking me every day. Colbert, he calls himself. That's got to end. And if we have all that, we're okay. And soon afterwards, the FCC, by a vote of 2-1, approved the merger. The technique of quid pro quo, you do what I want, including paying money for it. Then we decide if your school stays open. We decide if your law firm stays open. We ask you to advocate on our behalf when we tell you what those issues are. I haven't seen the paper. I don't know what those things look like. The crisis in America is that we have a first-rate, evil, mobster-like public official who thinks he can do anything he wants. We would do better off to have headlines like Scotland did about how they were being visited by a felon. The nature of our government, its persistence, its resolute behavior to come back to the line that defines us in the original promise of the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, and in the cases and amendments since. This is our pathway. This is our honesty. This shows our wisdom. This shows our dignity. And Trump is none of those things. He is the opposite of all of them. He is a hungry junkyard dog without a drop of feeling for people. Years ago, I read of a lawyer I had a lot of respect for, that his life was about winning at the law. That's not the law. The law is doing the right thing in the right circumstance. We have had examples of that. We have had heroes. We have had people who've come forward and done the right thing, and they've done it at risk to themselves. Some are, quote, whistleblowers, others just aren't going to do it. The U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York wouldn't do the sweetheart deal with the mayor of New York. Hey, just work with me and I'll give you a pardon. How's that? I'll get the case dismissed. How's that? I'll get the government to dismiss it. How's that? And ultimately they did. So we have a criminal enterprise in the Oval Office. Rudy could give us a hand here. He'll tell you how often he used that statute himself. How about using it against the President of the United States or his office? How about impeachment? How about censure? How about cutting off his funds to do these things? How about demanding an accounting? How about having hearings on it? How about those 435 people in the Congress getting off their ass and protesting and doing their job? So, those are a few of my thoughts. Apparently, the coolness of my home has made me forthright, and you guys do as well, guys and gals. So, good to be with you. Hope to be on the trail tomorrow. All the best. Bye-bye.